want to talk about Google today, the Google Corporation. Now, all of us are who are familiar with computers, rely on Google. This actual broadcast is coming to you in some way or other through the Google system. Now, all these whiz kids are down in California, and they've created a new world for the internet, and one can't doubt their brilliance. However, I just want to point out one thing about the internet and about the current situation. When I was a kid, when I was a child, we had a terrible plague of pornography. It was called Health and Deficiency. It was a magazine that circulated in the third form, and everybody sniggered at the back when we saw these magazines. In those days, pornography wasn't a big problem. If you had to look for pornography in Soho. But as time went on, so every village and every town in UK sort of elaborated, publicised, and became a storehouse for pornography. David Wilkerson turned up. He was a preacher, an American preacher, who wrote a book called The Cross and the Switchblade. And back then, in the 60s and early 70s, he made a prophecy. He said that whatever pornography there was in the world, it would be confronted. The church would be confronted with a tidal wave. And that's exactly what happened through the invention of the internet. Now, the result is that through the internet and through Google, pornography is publicised, disseminated to every part of the world. The Americans have not made any attempt to control the particular inventions they've created. Billy Graham, who died the other week, he said at one point that if America doesn't face judgment from God, then God will have to apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah. So what I'm concerned about is the people down in Silicon Valley are generally nice people, but they don't have any moral sense whatsoever. They believe that they should not make judgments on what people see on the internet. So they allow any creepy sort of stuff to go onto the internet. I'm saying this is an evil philosophy, and this evil philosophy is espoused by the heads and the chiefs of section in the Google Corporation. These people are criminals, and they are not doing their job of quality control. And neither will the American government control Google. So we have a situation where one corporation can determine the cultural mores of the whole world, and the Americans do nothing. The result is the American psyche is totally perverted. For example, in Syria, the Americans have been backing, and Donald Trump has been backing ISIS and the Free Syrian Army. The Syrian government's trying to stop terrorism in East Ghouta, but the Americans are backing the terrorism in East Ghouta. And the reason is that the Americans have lost their way. And I think that California should be rather worried. If I were a person from California, I would be worried, because God's judgment will come eventually. We don't know when. And God may change his mind. He did on several occasions, like in the case of Nineveh. But California will face the judgment of God for hosting Silicon Valley and hosting Google, because the Google Corporation and the Google chief executives have a amoral view of the world, where moral categories and ethical categories don't count.